Kiss My Chaos, taking stories of trauma into triumph while living life in the middle and everything in between. All views are expressed solely of the host, guests, and for entertainment purposes only. You don't like it? Well, you can kiss our chaos. Here are your hosts, Abigail Dark and DT Hudson.
Welcome back to the Kiss My Chaos. I can't even talk. This cinnamon tea has got me on my tongue. Welcome back to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. And we are at our super secret location. This is going to be a great day.
Well, super secret, but we are drinking our Harvey and Sons orange cinnamon sunset tea. Feel free to sponsor us. Any grant writers out there, if you want to write to this company on behalf of us, we would love for them to send us as many free samples as we could possibly get.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, we basically fund your company, whether you know it or not, through Amazon. For me, it just comes right to my door. I order like 10 at a time. It's worth it. I don't know what to do with the tins. I'll bring them back to you so you can refill them for me. That would maybe there's the negotiation.
You know what? I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have a bunch of random like nails and screws everywhere that could use these tins.
That's right. We have tins for sale. Hey, Abby, if you would have the honor of introducing our very esteemed guest, a friend of mine, someone actually that served in my guard unit before he served in the other guard unit before that other unit. I tell you what, talk about a wealth of experience and what a story we're going to hear today.
I'm super excited. Just from the short synopsis that we got from him, it's going to be an incredible story. We have Tom Krabbenhoft here, and we are just excited, just to know what he went through and what he's doing today to give back to the community. So, welcome. We appreciate you coming here and joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I love the tea. I have to concur with you guys on the tea.
Note that our guests love the tea as well. We were 10 for 10 on tea. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tom, local guy, right?
That's affirmative.
And always been local.
Pretty much. Yep.
That's what we do here. We take stories of trauma going into triumph, and there's so many in our local community, whether you're a first responder, military veteran, nurse, paramedic, mother, father. There's just so many, and that's why we're so happy to have you here. So where did you grow up, Tom?
I grew up in Moorhead. I'm a spud.
He is a spud.
But, I'm one of the founding fathers of Skip Weekend, and that's the only thing academically I can claim. So
I have my membership card of that.
Right. So I knew I wasn't going to map the human genome, so I'm like, well, I think I'll join the military. And they went on strike in 84, if you remember, so I joined the military at 17.
Oh, wow.
17 years old, joining the military into the Army?
Yes.
Okay. What was your MOS or your
11 Bravo.
11 Bravo, infantryman. Yep. I tell you what, MOS, for those who don't know, is basically your job.
Yeah, and that was a shock, to be from an undisciplined kid to go to 11 Bravo. It was a shock.
Well, everybody has a story about basic training. Is there something that was really profound of basic training that happened that you're willing, because the statute of limitations is probably run by this point, so you're pretty safe.
Right. Well, I was just talking about it today, and first time I ever fessed up to it. Can I use the F word? Or
I don't care what you use.
Okay. Well, I wasn't allowed to go to graduation because I was too much of a fuck up. So I completed basic training in AIT.
That's an adjective.
But the head drill sergeant said, nope, you're going to stay here because you're too much of a fuck up. And I said, all right, that's fine. So I like to call him now and say, let's compare military careers and how you dipshit and everything.
Exactly.
So I ended up on the good side, but it was I had no business going there, and I was lucky I survived, I guess, basic training because
But yeah, here you are. And that's what's awesome.
Absolutely, and I turned things around, and that was good, and finally caught on to things, kind of.
Kind of. We still work on that every day, don't
Absolutely.
we? Absolutely. We have to. You should have seen what Tom was wearing when he walked in. He's got the most badass motorcycle jacket around. You talk a little bit about your group?
I would love to talk about that group. I am the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, and they are the most wonderful people I've ever been around in my life. And we're in all 50 states and 4 countries now. And it's the fastest growing veterans group. They were established in 2001. And first national meeting, there was 500 people. Now there's over 6,000 go to the national meetings.
Wow.
And we just got established in Fargo here last June. So we're not even a year old, and we have 34 members.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
we are out just doing things all the time. Our motto is vets helping vets, and we just get out and we do that. You know, we had an event for the Fisher House this winter, raised $65,000. That was over 48 hours. It was phenomenal.
Wow.
That's when Tom and I connected again.
Yes.
Was for that because he was looking for someone to do the national anthem, of which our co-host here had just had something done, and she probably would have said yes to doing it, but sorry, girl, I knew it was in my best interest to not even tell you about it.
Oh, was that when I had my hysterectomy?
Yes. I wasn't going to use the H word, but being you brought it up, yeah, that's when you did.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think I could have sang at that point, but
no. So it all worked out, and I think she did a great job, and it all worked out, and it was a very honorable. I was watching your Facebook feeds. You were sleeping in a fish house, and
I was outside.
you were outside.
Yep.
I would have slept in the fish house.
I wish I would have and everything. So,
He's 11 Bravo. I'm an Air Force guy. I would have been in the fish house with the heater.
It's the last time I'm going to do it because it beat the hell out of me. I ain't gonna lie. So it tortured me bad. And then I had an ex-wife that I reconnected with, and she was going through hospice at the time. And then so I said, hey, call me, and she'd call me in the middle of the night. And so I wasn't sleeping at all that period because she'd call me and.
Sure, that's a tough time, man. I tell you what, just to reach out and, even if you get divorced, you can still be really good friends, right?
And we hadn't talked since 2014, and we reconnected back in probably October, September.
oh, sure.
Sure.
So we parted as friends. It was very cool. It changed me. I have to say that. It really changed me. So
Life is short, right? We all know it.
it is short, and I'm glad we did part as friends because
Shorter than most.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
she suffered with that awful cancer, and it was terrible to see that. And so
absolutely. But wait, what a way to part as friends. I mean, I'm not even going to say closure. It's just some peace in that.
Mm-hmm.
I can
there really
imagine.
is.
I can imagine because I know stories, and I've people that have been taken out of other people's lives in a rapid manner, and you don't get to have that relationship, and that's a wonderful thing.
Nope, that's a fact. And that sleeping outside thing with her calling, and everything, and it really beat me up and everything. So.
Yeah, sorry about the late night texts. I thought maybe you'd be sleeping.
Oh no, and I never do. That's the thing. I hardly ever do sleep, and then get in that sleep bag when it's that cold out. And I find out, the older and fatter you get, you can't get down to your. So I had to unzip to get some stuff down by my feet. A liner that got crumpled up and was down by my feet.
Okay,
So I had
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, the sleeping bag. We're talking about the sleeping bag here. So I had
the liner. Everyone. Settle down,
So
ladies.
I had to grab that liner and everything. And well, if they seen me, they wouldn't be getting excited anyhow. So it's like, yeah. So, so I unzipped, and then it was like I couldn't get my heat back generating in the sleeping bag, and I was like, I killed myself there. So it was awful. Well, I'm not going to do it again.
What's really cool is when Tom came in, he brought photographs and a picture and a frame, and we're going to go through these. And as we go through Tom's story, we'll take some photographs of this, and he's getting one right now. Look good now, look pretty. But we'll post some of those that he wants us to that are most relevant to the story he's about to tell, and I think that would help everybody. It's kind of like reading a book. Everybody's got a different visualization, but if they're able to look at a photograph and want that. But let's start in with your story. We talked a little bit on the phone, and I was just having an oh shit moment listening to just what you were telling me briefly. So
I got a couple of them here. Well, the first time I went to Alaska was 1989, and it was one of the coldest outdoor operations that the U.S. has ever had, and it was over 50 below, and I was outside in a tent. That's where I picked up this useless skill set of knowledge, going to Arctic survival school and everything and learning how to survive in that miserable environment. And then I brought it down here and I was like, if a guy slept outside when it's 30 some below, that would be one of these money-making things you could do. So I was there and outside for that, Operation Brimfrost it was called, and we had quite a few deaths on that one, actually. There was a plane of Canadian paratroopers, 18 of them, on 18 January 1989. The plane crashed, and I was there for that on the runway, and it was a mess. It was so cold that with the bleeding and the moisture that they had and everything, the blood and whatnot, that they were sticking to the runway, to get these people off. So can you imagine being a first responder for that? And there's a phenomenon in Alaska called ice fog, where it gets so cold it pulls the moisture out of the ground. So it takes the moisture out of the ground and it forms this fog, and you can't see anything with this fog. It's just really thick. So the trucks were going out there, and they, you can't see more than 4 or 5 feet in front of you, and and they were worried about running people over. So it was so cold that they had people in front of the trucks and stopping the trucks and trying to listen for screams, but they couldn't hear them over the diesel and all that. So it was quite the mess. But 18 Canadian paratroopers perished that day.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
So that was my start in Alaska, and it didn't get much better. Every trip I made up there, it became kind of worse and worse. And then we were in a tent fire up there too, and that kind of shocked me. So I hear all this screaming. I wake up and I see this tent on fire, and it's dripping and everything, and get out of the bag and run outside of the tent, and that was something else. So
what kind of heat source did they have in the tent? That was contributed to the tent fire?
Yukon stoves they're called. Okay. And they use gas, and they have a drip line, and they put it in a circle. So if the gas goes, it goes around the drip line, and it drips outside the tent. But those things get so hot, and they're metal, and they were made in the 40s or 30s, and that the sides would go, boop, 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 boop. They're metal, and they would vibrate. They would turn red, and they would vibrate and like kind of flap. The sides would. It would get, they would burn that hot. And you could put stuff on them, and it would just boil up right away. But it was so cold up there, the temperature on the ground floor was like 20 degrees, and then up here it was like 70. So that's how inside a tent, So that was kind of a unique thing, too, where we got these thermometers on your zipper that everybody would have, so you could take it off and put it on the ground, see what the ground temp was, see what the temp, eye level was.
That makes sense.
Cold feet.
Right.
That's where you wear those bunny boots, and those things, you probably remember.
Oh,
the
yeah,
bunny
I
boots.
remember bunny boots.
And those things are miserable because they're made for standing still. So if you walk in them, your feet sweat and they perspire and your socks get wet, and then your feet get cold. So it's a really bad environment to operate in. And the philosophy is you are 1% more operational than your enemy. That's how you win. So that was my first Alaska trip. And the second one I went on was kind of equally as interesting, but we did a Stinger missile thing out there, a Stinger missile test, and after I got out of the infantry, I went into the artillery and then the Stinger missiles, and I love the Stinger missile thing. That was probably one of the most gratifying jobs I had.
So was that air defense artillery?
Yep.
Okay.
And then you can see there that we're loading up these targets. Well, this is the first one I'm showing Abby here. That vehicle's called a SUSV, and it's made by Bofors, Sweden, and it's got these tracks, and it only puts like 3.5 pounds of inch on these tracks, so they float and everything, and they don't like penetrate the ice, and they go across some snow like crazy, like you wouldn't believe. And they only hold eight people, but pretty remarkable vehicle.
So
and
it
then
goes on top of the snow?
It does, yeah. It's just like a snowmobile, but it's so light. The tracks are so big, and there's 4 of them, so this thing just kind of floats around. And the next one they're called ballistic aerial targets, and that's what we would shoot with the Stinger. And you can see a guy in civilian clothes, and we had engineers from General Dynamics come up and help us out with this kind of thing on the cold weather testing. And the final one is a heater, and that's where I'll get into that one. But you can see like the guys there, and then we're loading up the targets, and then so these things would shoot, and we'd take the Stinger and we'd lock the heat source onto those things, and then shoot them out of the air. And while we were there, I was doing the assistant gunner thing, and we had a misfire, it's called, where the missile goes through all its operations and functions, and it does everything except for launch. So we're sitting there with the Stinger missile that misfired, and this helicopter takes off with all these generals on it and everything. And this thing got about 300 feet in the air, and I was trying to, like, you know, tell the CP, like, hey, we got a live missile down here, you know. And as soon as the helicopter found out, I mean, holy shit, that was a scary moment, because that helicopter, when it found out that there was a live anti-aircraft missile, that thing did a big death spiral down, and it hit the ground. And I remember the thing hit the ground not too far from me, and I could see the skids like stretch out, you know, when it hit that hard, and the snow went poof, and it did like a snow funnel, like 100 feet in the air with the rotors and everything. But yeah, they pretty much purposely crashed that thing. Because, I mean, imagine the pilot that's responsible for killing those generals and everything.
You're kidding.
And then, so when we were done with that exercise, there was, I think there was 20 plus of us living out there, staying out there at the time. And my buddy and I, they had to leave. And if you've seen where they're setting up the missiles, they got these stands there. And they got these big metal stands, and these are the small ones, but they got these larger ones where they would launch these ballistic aerial targets. So we had to stay and guard these things. So we said, yeah, we'll stay. Well, we had 145, and you remember how they used to transport, you know, weapons. They would take the pin out.
Sure.
So this major, in all his knowledge and everything, took the pin out of this pistol, gave it to us, and said, all right, we'll see you back at, you know, we'll see you back when you get back. And then this ice fog hit, and we were only going to be there a day, and we ended up being there 5 days. We had no supplies, no water, no nothing. But we had all this garbage that was out there, so we had to compete with the garbage that was out there with the pack of wolves that came around. So
how did that make you feel, knowing that all those wolves were always around? You had to be, like, on alert all the time?
that was a bit unnerving, but did I show you the picture of the heater that we had?
Yeah, I see that.
This thing was really small, this heater was, or this room that we stayed in. It was just like a little shack.
I've seen these before.
Yeah, okay. It was just a little shack.
Right.
And there wasn't enough fuel. We ran out of fuel the first night. So then we were like freezing. So then the next day we gathered up twigs and branches and everything. And then I took my Leatherman and I ripped everything out on the inside that would burn diesel and made it so we could, you know, hopefully burn wood with it. So it was successful, but I was thinking, boy, we get carbon monoxide poisoning. That's going to suck. But, you know, it's like we would have froze to death either way because it was 50 some below, you know. So we tore this thing apart. And I was standing on the opposite side of this thing. So it was this thing is about probably 10 feet long at the most, and it's not very wide. And there's room for 2 people to sleep there. And when the wolves, well, we started going through the garbage and we were pulling out, you know, the crackers, all the MRE stuff and everything, because we realized we're probably going to be there a while. Well, then the wolves seen the garbage and they started going through it. And at night they would come up and they would bump our shack. They would be like, boom, they would bump that shack. And like they knew we were in there, so they would kind of, you know, thrust themselves into it or give it a shoulder hit or whatever.
Figure out how to get in there.
Yeah, and we could hear them. We could hear them out there, and I was like, God, this is bad, you know, and everything. And then during the day, you know, they were out there too, but they were pretty much not as active as they were at nighttime. But at night, they kept us awake all night, you know, bumping into our shack and with the noise and that kind of thing. And that's when they pretty much scavenged, you know, through the garbage and everything. But fortunately, we can read and the wolves can smell, so a lot of that stuff is sealed. So we were still able to get frozen jelly packets out of there and whatever else. And then, you know, so we dealt with that for a few days and no water or anything, and everything ran out. And then the truckers show up, you know, finally to pick up these things. And then it's amazing. They all get out of the truck and we're like, that's what we got to pick up there. And they're like, oh, we all got profiles. And we're like, get your asses over here. We'll load them up, you know, and everything. These things are like 600 pounds each. And me and this guy are picking them up ourselves, you know, getting them on the back end there. Because we need to get out of there. I mean, it's just like, because we couldn't leave until they were loaded. And we were leaving one way or the other. So
did they just forget about you to like leave you any food or like anything? Like they're like, yeah, you're on your own. Screw you with these missiles.
Well, that's pretty much a good old military for you. But we were supposed to be out there for a day, you know, and I mean that's kind of the thing with the military too. Expect the unexpected, and
they just,
you know,
leave you for a day, but then it gets to be longer. They just don't come back.
Well, the ice fog hit, so there was no way to transport.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's where that ice fog I was talking about earlier, because these trucks were supposed to come out the next day.
Okay,
and then we seen the ice fog, and we're like, oh, this ain't good, you know, and that was not good at all. So then we knew we'd be out there until the ice fog dropped, and then the ice fog dropped, the truckers show up, and then they all got profiles. We can't lift anything heavy, and it's like, we'll get them on there. Just get the trucks over here.
So how old were you when that was going on?
That
you looked
would
like
have
a
been,
baby in that photo.
Yeah, you look like a little fella.
I was. I'm 86. I was a pretty young E6. I was like 23 by the time I made E6, and then
Okay.
so that was a lot of fun, because I remember one time there was a police call, and I got on the step and I started smoking a cigarette. And if you remember the police calls, so they'd fan out and they'd pick up stuff, and this guy looked at me and he's got the clipboard and he goes, "Hey, dumbass!" And I was like looking around, and yeah, you. And I'm like, I point to myself, and he's like, "Yeah, you dumbass." And I was like, "Come here." And I said, "All right," so I go walking, and here he's an E4, but I looked younger than him, and he sees me. "Oh, sorry, I'm really, really sorry." And I said, "No, you're going to be sorry." And I grabbed his clipboard and I cleared about 5 people away, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Dumbass here is going to pick up all that stuff by himself, and you guys can observe him and everything."
A little self-correcting behavior.
Yeah. And I said, "Go ahead, tell the first sergeant on me, and I'll say that you're, it's like, that just shows you being an idiot." But yeah,
maybe you can use that technique at your work, Abby.
No, yeah. I don't think that would fly selling diamonds.
Right.
Hey, dumbass.
But
I don't think that would go so well.
Well, I became self-aware. It's like, apparently I'm the dumbass because I'm the only one sitting, and I even looked around for, where's the dumbass at? And it was like, it was me, I guess. But, so I had to correct him out of that. So
That's good. That's good you corrected him.
And I would imagine at this point in your career, you're just trying to rise the ranks, right? You're just trying to do the things.
Yeah, you are trying to do that and everything. And, and you just try to work hard and keep your mouth shut. And that was never a strong point of mine, I guess. But, so you just kind of...
To each their own on that, yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of do that, and you're just trying to, ride the ranks and do different things and get out there. And they say, don't volunteer for anything, but, that's how do you get noticed? You got to volunteer, and you have to succeed. That's a big thing, If you volunteer and you screw up constantly, you're not going to get a lot of good assignments. And then you got to find a commander that will respect your honest, unvarnished opinion, and I was lucky. I had a few of them. Colonel Runk, if you're listening, I thank you for that, because he would value my opinion, and no matter how nasty it was or whatever, so he would take it, and that was great. And but some get kind of offended when they hear the truth. It's like, I don't need to hear the truth in my command. It's like, well, all right then, don't ask me. So
that's the difference between a manager and a leader.
Exactly.
Surround yourself with good people and trust they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yep, and that was Eisenhower, and that's why Eisenhower liked Patton. He liked people that would tell him what he needed to hear, and the dark end of things. So it's like a lot of people don't do that, and that's too bad.
Well, Alaska sounds cold. It sounds beautiful, but cold. I don't want to see
very cold.
I don't want to see the ice fog.
Yeah, very cold. Yeah, you don't want to see that. And then my last trip up to Alaska, I was in a helicopter crash up there, and that's the one I pretty much thought was going to end everything, and I was certain of it, I guess. And that was the one that completely changed my life, and I go into that thing every day, I guess, and it's crazy, but.
So walk us through it. What happened?
Well, I was on this exercise, and I think it was Raider Fury or Arctic Warrior. I forget what that one was called. But so I was on this exercise, and
was this a Huey or was it a?
No, a CH-47.
Okay.
And I got some pretty good pictures of it, and everything. And so I was on this exercise, and I was scheduled to leave early before the exercise was done, and then. I was with, he was a captain then. I was with Runk at that particular time. Here's just some fun ones here where I used to catch rattlesnakes out in the field. And I was that guy that did that, and it was like, so
I am not that guy. I will mow them over if I see
rattlesnakes.
Well, I had a technique for them too, and I could catch those things I could catch a lot of them. And sometimes it was a little bit scary, but I had a technique. I would take diesel fuel, put it in a hollow tube, and then I would blow it down the holes, and then they would just come out. And if there was 10 of them in the hole, 10 of them would come out, and it was.
They can stay in the hole, Tom. They don't need to come out.
Yeah,
right. But there's a good one right there. If you look at that one where I got the tube, and I found a hole under the sagebrush, so I stuck the tube in there. I poured some diesel in there, and I blew on the diesel till it evaporated, and the snakes started rolling out. But you see the guys in the Humvee. Because, so those things come out, and I found out if they're coiled, they can go twice their distance when they're coiled and bite you and everything. So I had one, snap out at me, and he got pretty close, but I hit him with the camouflage tent pole, and he went airborne, and he went neck level through a group of people.
Oh,
so
Lord.
they were pissed.
Is that what you
bet
do
you-
for
guess.
fun in the military?
Well, yeah, you get
Or
bored, you
diesel
know.
on
You got to wait,
snakes?
and that's why I got into it. The Badger too, you know.
Okay,
so
he
you
was
gotta
he was
wait
an
for these
E6,
things.
but let me explain.
I
it.
don't know what that means. Explain to everyone.
It's a pay grade, so it'd be that's a tech, right, in the Army? No,
Staff
sergeant.
Yeah.
Okay, E7. Yeah. Okay. So that's a rank structure. So
Okay.
he's supervising some folks. He's supervising what's called the E4 Mafia. And for those of you who don't know who the E4 Mafia is, here I hope you took a photograph of this because this is what E4 Mafia does. They go find rattlesnakes and holes and board diesel down there to go chase them around.
That's why the E4 Mafia liked me, because I was a kid like them. You know, it was like, you know, at heart anyhow.
Oh, so that was like fun. That wasn't like actually they told you to go and.
So
No,
E4s and below, you can put them on a stationary post and give them a flashlight and come back 10 seconds later and there'll be like one part of it left and nobody will know what happened to it.
Yeah, 15 witnesses.
Yeah,
Hope
it's
you
like,
saw nothing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they're
I need
tighter
to hear
than-
more about these shenanigans that you
there's-
guys get into.
Oh, God.
That's why I asked about the basic training because that's where it starts usually and then it just progresses throughout the years of
No,
experience.
I didn't get into mine, and one of my favorite ones, I got to tell you, is I'd get in the barracks before everybody else, and they had these black toilet seats, you know. So I'd take my shoe polish, and I'd put shoe polish on the toilet seats, so these guys would go on there and sit, and they're all hot and sweaty, and then they'd get up and they'd have a big black ring on their asses and everything, and on their legs,
And then you
everybody
gotta-
would giggle.
Then you got to kick it up a notch and put saran wrap right below it so you can't see it. And
Try to do that
Yeah.
one. That was a good one, and then so just different things like that. It was you know, I had a lot of fun.
I deny
doing that kind of
everything.
stuff, and then and then I had this boy. How do I even explain this? I had this purple smoking robe like Hugh Hefner wore that I bring with me all the time, and it just barely covered, you know, my privates or whatever. So I would bring that thing with because I could just roll it up into a little ball, you know, and it was like this. It was like purple, and it had royal blue piping on it, you know. So I'd wear this thing all the time, and you know, everybody would get a kick out of that because I had pockets and I could put a beer in the pockets, you know, and stuff, and a pack of cigarettes.
Even better.
And I'd walk around with my boots unlaced, you know, with this thing on. And then so people would kind of laugh. And then the rumor was, it's like, is he wearing underwear in that thing or not? You know, that's what they'd ask the new troops because you got to haze the new troops.
Absolutely.
And we were,
It's too cold to prove them otherwise.
right. And we were up in Alaska, and it gets so cold up there that they have to do their calisthenics inside. So I was laying in this room. There's 4 of us there, and I was laying in this room, and I hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And I was laying there. I was like, oh God! And then my eyes start crossing. I gotta pee, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. So then, you know, we got one bathroom on the whole floor, you know. So I put my little robe on, and I get up. And I start walking down this hall, and everybody starts giggling, you know. And I get to the first sergeant, and I cut into the bathroom and everything, and I hear him go, "What the fuck was that?" And they all start laughing because I had this little Hugh Hefner robe on. And then I come out, and the first sergeant's there, and he's like, "Morning, sunshine." I was like, "Morning, first sergeant." It's like, "Would you like to join us?" I said, "No, thank you. I'm not sure if I'm wearing underwear or not." He was like, God. And I said, "Could you guys keep it down a little bit? I'm trying to sleep." And then he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then I kind of walk away and everything. And then he goes, What the hell is that, Little Lord Fauntleroy on my fucking floor, you know? And everybody laughed. So and then the guys I was with are awake, and it's like, "You're harassing the first sergeant?" They said, "No, he's harassing me, you know," and everything. I said, "I just went out there to pee," and they're like, "Wearing that?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, what else am I gonna wear?" You know, so I was trying to be quiet. And
After this podcast, they'll be auctioning this robe off for millions of dollars.
I don't know where it's at. I'm upset about that. And it was crushed velour and everything, and it was like,
You might want to contact that first sergeant. He may have confiscated that robe. Maybe he was just jealous of it.
He might have, and he's probably wearing that to this day and
He
everything.
probably is.
He joined the Navy, and that served him well, I bet. But,
Fair enough.
Which we always make fun of the Navy, but
We do.
I was, but yeah. So that was kind of. So I would always pull the jokes and all that kind of stuff. I would just kind of love that because I'd be so serious.
Did you find it real necessary though, like when you're on deployments like that, to have a little bit of that humor? Because that's really does what makes the good stories, and nobody gets hurt from it. It's just stories of things that happen. I mean, they get a black butt from a toilet seat, maybe, but that's about about it.
Yeah, that was
They get to look at your junk while you're wearing your smoking robe.
I know. No, I had a. I did have a lot of fun. Oh boy, everybody's gonna think I'm a freak, but we had these command Humvees with like 6 antennas on them, and they put this ball in the end of this antenna so you don't get poked in the eye. And there was this older guy, and his name was Sergeant Hugh, and he was an Air Force officer, and then he dropped out of that, and then he became an enlisted Army guy. And he was older and a little bit on the religious side and everything. And then, so when he was sleeping at night, I took all his antennas down and I put condoms on the end of his antennas. So.
Safety first.
Yes.
Yeah, so, God. So I woke up in the morning. He's got all these paper towels, and he's holding the antenna down with the paper, and he's trying to pull the condoms off with the paper towel in the other hand, and there's like snapping and everything else. I can barely keep a straight face. It's like, oh my God. And then he was mad. So like I brought up at formation. Who put the condoms on Sergeant Hughes? You know.
Oh, we don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I had no idea, you know. And then I don't know. Look for the Humvee with the 6 empty wrappers in it, which I took the wrappers and put it in somebody else's
Humvee,
thing,
of course.
so-
That's smart.
Yeah.
This is premeditated. Again, statute of limitations is clearly run on all this.
And then you know, we got the mooches that always come out, you know, on first day you're out there. Can I bum a cigarette? And it's like, what the hell, a cigarette? And it's like you're out here for 2 weeks. So we had these paintballs, so we told the 2 moochers that they were like candy and everything. So they popped in, and you got to bite them. As this guy bites down on this paintball, and then all this blue stuff comes out of his mouth. He looked like Gene Simmons, but he was so mad he picked up a shovel and started chasing me with it and swinging it, and he was mad. I could die from this, and it's like, well, that'll save me in cigarettes if you did, you know.
We have kids eating Tide Pods. They're fine.
Yeah, I know. It's like, you know, quit crying about it and everything. So that was kind of a fun one
I
too.
shouldn't say that. That can be dangerous. I'm
right.
sorry.
I guess we.
But you have to joke with everything that you guys go
bit.
through and see. I mean, you have to have those times to try to balance out some of the other bullshit.
And just don't eat the paintballs, you know.
Don't eat
it's
the
like,
paintballs,
you know,
yeah.
and God.
So getting back to this helicopter incident, that's a Chinook, right?
Yep, a Chinook.
That is a big helicopter. That's one of
That
those
is.
that looks like a big whale going through the air with 2 huge rotors.
Yep, and that's and so I was on this exercise I was with Captain Runker. He was captain at the time, and then so I was there, and I had to leave early. And I was also one of those, I'm kind of proud I was always able to trade or wheel and deal. So I got to this area, I think it was called a Piha or a Talk, I can't remember which one it was. But I got there, and this helicopter lands, and then I went up to the helicopter, and I started talking to the crew chief, and I said, hey, and you can notice how big that thing is. There's a guy right there holding his head after the crash. And so I got this helicopter, and I started talking to the crew chief there. And so, where are you guys going? And he said, we're going to, Fort Richardson. And I said, that's where I had to go. So it was either 110 miles in a truck or else a few minutes in the helicopter. And I said, what do I got to do to get a ride? He said, help me load this thing up. I said, hell yeah. You know, so I helped him load all this up, and we strapped everything down. And here's just a bunch of assorted pictures. I'll just pass them out there. And so I helped him load this thing up. And he said, yeah, we're leaving in about 2 hours. And I said, this is great. So I took a little nap, even though it was 10 below, you know, but I laid there and took a little nap. And we had I think it was 2 pallets of motor rounds on there, a pallet of fuses, and then we had a couple pallets of milk and the little milk things, and then the cereal that we were carrying on there. So I mean, that thing hauls a lot of cargo, and then people too.
You can haul a vehicle in those things.
Yeah, they're huge, and you can sling load a Humvee and everything else with them. So, so we had all that loaded up, and boy, and flying in those things is just like nothing else too, because it feels like the ground's moving. You know, I mean, those things don't like roll like the Hueys or the Blackhawks do. They just start going, and you can just feel this power under your feet. You know, and those 2 big rotators, they counter rotate. So you can kind of feel the power developing. It's just this boop 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 boop, and everything under you is like moving, and it's just really fascinating to feel that. So you take off, and then I got a prime spot too. I was at the window. I was on the window seat or the door gunner seat, and you can kind of see that where the machine gun is. There's a picture of the machine gun's kind of blurred out. And then there's a good solid picture of the machine guns on there too. And so I had a great seat. I was at the door gunner seat. And there's a machine gun that's Mount McKinley in the background. But so I had this great seat, and I was just enjoying all this view and everything. And we stopped, and we unloaded the motor stuff. We unloaded the fuses and then the motor pallets. We dropped them off, and I helped him out with that. We just unstrapped him, pushed him out the back, and lowered the ramp, and then we took off again. And then we went for a while, and then all of a sudden this thing started to spin around really slowly. And I was like kind of thinking, wow, this is cool, because it was like panoramic. I was taking pictures, and then it started to go a little bit faster, and I was like, then I kind of thought that the thing has 2 rotors, and like a regular helicopter, it'll spin on its axis. And I didn't think this thing, it's called auto-rotate with 1 rotor, and a helicopter will do that like all day long. And I didn't think this thing counter-rotated or auto-rotated because the props would go counter to each other. Because if they spun the same direction, the thing would just basically spin like this. Sure. So one prop goes one way, the other goes the other. So it gets the lift, and then that's how it keeps from spinning out of control. So this thing started to auto-rotate, and I was going to ask the crew chief that was right across from me, said, hey, I didn't think these things would, and then when I looked at him, he went like this, and boom, and he hit the floor. He hit the floor hard. And then I looked out my window, and I seen a backpack go past my window, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, I know this ain't supposed to happen. So then I wasn't even strapped into the dang thing. You're supposed to put this nylon strap on. You're supposed to, it's like a 5,000, 3,000 pound that'll hold. And so I grabbed onto this thing, and I was going to hook myself into the helicopter. And when I grabbed onto it, it went flying out of my hands, and I went forward like 2 feet, and I went into this closet. And so I hit this door like on the floor. And then I went into this closet, and I seen the door go out the back, went out the back of the helicopter. And then I was in this small little closet, and you guys see where they take they'll take like the hook, and they'll bring the pilot up through the floor, and everything. And that's where I was at. So I was right there. So I'm looking up at this big, heavy industrial winch, and I'm looking up at this winch with this huge hook on it, and then there's nothing but fire blanket around me. That's that gray stuff that's got the diamonds in it. It's got asbestos in it, for
sure.
fires and everything. So I was in that. So I had literally my fingertips were, hitting the hook and everything, but I couldn't grab onto the hook. And I started panicking. I said, holy shit, I'm getting sucked out of the bottom of this, because I could feel the wind coming up through there and everything. And so I'm in this giant hole, and I'm thinking, this thing's going to hit, and the first thing it's going to hit is going to be my ass. And I'm like, this is bad. So I sat there as absolutely utter sheer panic. And that was sheer panic. And I can hardly remember anything. And I'm just sitting there, and I was just so terrified. And you're positive you're going to die. I mean, you just know you're going to die. And you're just so positive you're going to die. Just the way the mind works, it's kind of funny, because I got hit in the face. And I got hit in the face, and that kind of snapped me back into a different reality. And here was a little cereal box of Honey Nut Cheerios. So once it hit me in the face, it hit the wall, and it stuck there. So I'm looking at this box of Honey Nut Cheerios, and I'm thinking, God, I hate those things. I do too. And it's like, so I don't know why you think that, but that's just what I thought. I was like, I hate those things, So it was like, but that was a pleasant distraction from what I was going through. But it's just kind of funny how I just remember the Honey Nut Cheerios hitting me in the face, and the box sticking, and then I don't know what happened to the box. But so we're going through this, and it's loud. It sounds like a couple of overhead trains. And I later found out that the pilots engaged both the jet engines. They're really powerful. I think they're about 4,000 horsepower each, these 2 engines that they have on there, and they engage both of them to try to pull this thing out of the spin. So that's why it was so loud. I mean, this thing was just, had everything it had to it, and it was loud. It sounded like overhead trains, and I'll never forget that sound.
So is that kind of like a gravitron type of field then? Like you're just stuck in a position, essentially, and you can't move because of the force?
Yeah, and I could move, but the way I was sitting, I was kind of like... So if I was here, so like my feet would be up on the table, and then I would be in that kind of position where my feet are up on the table. They're like eye level with me. And then, and then my derriere sticking out of the bottom of the helicopter. So I thought, I didn't know how far it was, but I could feel the wind coming up, and me trying to grab onto this hook, which is absolutely futile. So I couldn't get out of this hole. I couldn't grab onto the hook. And I was pretty convinced I was going to get sucked out of the bottom of this thing. So yeah, I just rolled that thing out, and it was absolutely, utterly terrifying. And then I started to hear all these explosions, these explosions, and it was loud, and it was just like pow, 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 sound like mini explosions and everything. And here they were trees. So we took out about 7 blocks worth of trees that we hit these trees, and we started hitting the treetop, and they were snapping, so the trees kept, and that's what I think saved us, because there's a picture there where you can see how thick the vegetation is. So like you can see the helicopter in that one there, and it's way down there, and you can barely see it there, but I mean,
there's a tree about every 3 feet.
Yeah, and that's what saved us. We hit all those trees,
and they're not
everything.
thick. I mean, I would assume that slowed that rotation down a little bit. But that's a lot of force.
Yeah, that saved us. There is what did that. We started to hit the top of those, and we plowed out, because I remember seeing a great big swath, that went through the woods and everything, and that was us going it the hard way. And here's a kind of cool pictures here, but there's one where the machine gun is like visible, and then here it's like blurry. So that's when we started to spin out of control, and I took that picture.
So that's actual photos from when that was happening.
Yep.
Wow.
That's So this one's clear. So and then that one started when we started to spin out of control, and so this thing is just like loud, and then you hear all these trees exploding and everything, and then. So I was sitting there, and then I got this big tree that came between my legs that was broken, and that came right between the legs, and that startled me. Well, then when that happened, a light started to pierce this little closet I was in, and that was the rotors snapping off. So we had rotors snapping off and the light coming through, and I was just remembering I was sitting there, and where I told you where I was, like my feet were level with my eyes. So the only thing I can think of is I didn't want to take a piece of rotor in the face or in the groin, So I mean, I didn't want to take one in the face or the groin. I just remember thinking that. So I grabbed the back of my helmet and I threw it down as far as I could to my groin area to try to protect that. And then that all quit. That'll quit the rotors and everything. And I had this it's just really bizarre. I had this really strange feeling. And because everything was over, it was quiet and it was still. I can feel it right now. So quiet and still. And it was just, it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I've ever had in my entire life. And I can feel it and I crave it. Nothing has ever duplicated or replicated it. Sex, drugs, drinking, nothing has ever, even the birth of my kids hasn't even came close to what I felt, on that particular moment. And I was sitting there in this moment, and then I hear, "Get the fuck out of here, it's going to blow." And then I literally shook my head, and I'm back to this really ultra-violent people screaming and fire and smoke and twisted metal. So I'm back to reality, and just like that, I'm back to this, violent reality. And I got up out of this hole, finally I got out of this hole, and I jumped out the window. So I jumped out the window, and I was going to get up and start running. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. Well, another guy jumped out, and he was on top of me. So that's why I was thinking, my legs can't work. So I was getting ready to elbow my way out of there. And then he stepped on, I remember he stepped on the back of my neck. And then I seen his feet running. And then I got up and I was running next to him. And I got even with him, and he was off to my left, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and then he ran this way, and I ran that way, and it's just kind of weird how that happens. And he stops, and he goes, "What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "How the fuck would I know?" And he goes, "We got to go back." And I said, "Yeah." So we both ran down. We both went back into the helicopter with it on fire, and we started pulling people out of it, and we pulled quite a few people out of that thing, and it was on fire, and they hit the fire suppression, which burned my eyes and my skin and my lungs. I got a burn from that. And
it's a chemical fire suppression system in these aircraft. And
Halon, it's bad stuff,
and it is not good for your lungs. It's not good for your skin. It'll burn you good.
Ooh.
Yep, that's a fact. And it burned my eyes. And
is there a reason why they use that?
It works.
It sucks the oxygen out, and it helps suppress the fire, from what I understand. I'm not a firefighter, but that's just what I've been told. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it does.
Yeah, a lot of the helicopters made out of aluminum magnesium alloy. It's strong and light, but once that magnesium catches fire, it's like forget about it. So that's what they're pretty. And I actually had a knife that could cut through the fuselage of a helicopter. I was so proud of that knife and everything, and until I lose it, and I'm out $250, big idiot, and everything. So it's like, yeah.
Let's go back to that part where you said it was serene.
Yes.
So the serene piece, I found that really interesting. Like, you didn't think in your head, I just survived this or anything. You were just, dead quiet. I can't even imagine what that felt like, or what that, exhilarating, holy shit, that PTSD feeling of just okay, that's over, or is it? You know, like, and then you get snapped back into reality.
Yep. On the way down, I had this experience, and it was, I got visited by angels. There's just no other way to describe it. And it was weird too. It was like an interview, and it was a long interview, and I remember it. I mean, I just remember everything. There was like two, and I couldn't see anybody. I mean, I couldn't make out physical features, but I could see these shimmering. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. But so I could see these two shimmering figures that were like there, and it's like I think they were the judges. And then I'm just getting really freaked out by it. Just I can feel it, you know, and everything. And I just and there was shimmering figures in the back. You know, some were walking, some were standing still, and then there was light behind them and everything. And I think those were relatives or people I know. I just felt comfortable with them in the room. So that's why I was like, I think there were people I knew that were in the back.
What were they saying?
They were asking me, why do you deserve to live? And no shit, that's what I actually went through. And you'll never convince me otherwise, because I was not living my best life, I guess, you know. So I wasn't living my best life. I was pretty angry and pissed off. And so I,
You were a young kid, you know?
Yeah, but I wasn't making a lot of good choices back then, I guess you could say, and it was like, so I had this like life interview, like, why do you deserve to live? And I said, I haven't had kids, I haven't lived, I haven't done anything, you know, and that was pretty much my weak ass case there that I had. And
how long was it before you came to terms with, let's just call it the interview? How long was it, or before you even told anybody about that?
You know, that was quite a while, and I'm still not to terms with it, because
Sure.
I think that kind of drives me today a little bit, you know. And
Well, maybe that's a purpose.
yeah, that's what I kind of think, you know. And I don't know, you know. It's like, what is I just don't know. It's just one of those things that just kind of haunts me and everything. It's like, but I'm on borrowed time. I tell people that I'm on borrowed time, and you know, if I get splattered on the highway on the way home in the motorcycle, it's like I've had a good life, you know, and it's like I've contributed, I've tried to make a difference, you know, and that's a good feeling, I guess. You know, I mean, people say, oh, you shouldn't say that, and I'm like, man, I've done things you could only read about in books. I'm so lucky, you know. It's like I got pain every day, and I go in that helicopter every single day, and I have ever since, you know, I was in it, and every single day I get in that thing, and you know, it just is what it is.
If I can ask, how is it for you when life flight's flying over your house and things like that? Does it take you back there?
Yeah, it does. Yep. Whenever I hear a helicopter, I'm like, yeah.
Because it flew over our house at about 10:30 last night. And then my first thought is, I can usually call out about what aircraft's flying over my head. But life flight's got a unique sound. And, you know, my first thought goes like, I hope they're doing okay, because, you know, they're not just flying for fun.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was crazy. And then during the flood, you know, I was at the guard base, and then a buddy of mine got me. He says, hey, you got to come out to the flight line. So I went out to the flight line, and they had a CH-47 there. Oh, boy. And then I said, hey, the crew wants to meet you. So I went into this thing, and I was just like going, wow. And that's first. And then I was like, so that's the first time I was in one after, after the incident there. And so I just recanted the whole tale, and I said, then behind here, this happened. And they were like, man, you're giving me goosebumps on this and everything. So, because I just talked about the whole thing, and they heard of this crash actually too, so they were familiar with it and all that. And
that's a small community that gets around. And
it does. Forever. It really does. And
especially when you're wearing your robe in there and your butt's hanging out.
I wish I would have had if I would have had the robe on, I think I would have had a hard time justifying, this is why I should live, because I got a great taste in smoking jackets,
yeah,
you know.
Exactly. Especially when that tree comes right up between your legs.
Maybe God has a sense of
that would have been really cold. My insulated pants versus a smoking robe on that thing, that would have been cold. So yeah. But
so what was did they offer any type of, I'm sure there was a lot, because there's going to be an investigation and there's a national defense area or whatever you want to call it that they set up for crashes like that, and what type of debrief did you have to go through?
Man, I got hosed on that because after the crash, they give you these little survival radios, and so I had one of them. And not too many people have them, and then nobody ever checks their survival. What the hell am I going to check this thing for? You know, and then So I got that thing out and I threw that little antenna up in the air, and I could hear, but you can always hear, but you can never broadcast, because when you broadcast, you use about 10 times the battery. You know that from podcasting, that you use a lot of power when you broadcast. So I wasn't broadcasting, so I was taking things out and trying to clean it so I could broadcast. And I was hearing there was other helicopters that seen us come down, and they were flying over. And they said, "There's nobody alive, nobody alive." And I was like, "Oh." And I'm like, that's got to change, because if they say there's nobody alive, they're going to take their time getting down there to pull us out of there. And then I heard him say that, they called the PJs, the pararescue guys, and they were 9 to 12 hours out. And then we got people laying all over there, and they're bleeding and screaming, and, it was just a mess. And then even myself, I was prepared to, take a bad one after everything. After, it settled down, I felt something hitting my leg, and I just, oh, my God, and I fucked up my arm. I was thinking, because that was my arm, dangling. And it was my camera that was still on my wrist.
Sure.
But I thought it was my arm.
Shock. I mean, this doesn't go away, clearly.
Yeah, no, I was trying to prepare myself for the worst. And I was going into shock, and I was trying to save myself from, paralyzing and everything, because people were a lot worse than I was. And then,
So training's taken over at this point with the survival radios. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's all I can assume.
Yeah, no, it's we're trying to get that together and get everybody triaged and figure out what's wrong with people and who we can transport out, and that's what we did too. They had a floating peat bog that was about 1.5 miles away, and we had to walk to it. So what they did is they would take helicopters. So they told all the aircraft to get the hell out of the area, and they would get aircraft to kind of line up where we were at, and we tell them, no, we can't hear you, we can hear you, and then so we would walk towards the sound, and then we eventually got to this floating peat bog, and then I seen this Huey peel out, and then in comes, I hear whoop 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 whoop, and it was the same helicopter we just crashed in. I was like, oh shit, not the helicopter, but the same kind, and I was like,
I'll walk. I'll be walking.
Right? I was like, this is bad.
I was going to ask you, how did you get out of there? Did you have to get into another helicopter?
We did. We got to this floating peat bog, and these floating peat bogs are really amazing, because they have thousands of years of vegetation that fall into the water, and it melts, and then it dissolves, and eventually turns into coal, and you can cut blocks out of it and burn it, because it's peat before it's coal, so it's but those things are amazing, and a lot of times they don't freeze over either because of the heat exchange. So, and you walk on them, it's like walking on a waterbed. So they found this floating peat bog, and those helicopters will float, those CH-47, so that's why they brought it out there, and they landed as close as they could. And we walked out and got into that thing, and everybody's pretty serious when they got on there. Then, they're putting the 5-point harnesses on.
Yeah.
Everybody was wearing their safety equipment then, and then they flew us in, and kind of funny too. I smoked back then. I smoked like GM and 3M. I mean, I love smoking, and so my cigarettes are just absolutely destroyed, and they were broken. If they were broken into 2 pieces, you can put them together and fix them and smoke, and mine were shattered. There were 3-4 pieces, and there was no way I was getting that, so I couldn't have a cigarette, and I was like, boy, I'd really kill for a smoke right now. But then when I got into see the doctor, I was losing clumps of skin. I was scratching myself, and I had clumps of skin coming off, and here it was, I was soaked in jet fuel. So I could have theoretically lit a cigarette up, and I would have went poof, if that stuff would have evaporated, properly, or so I got lucky there.
And that's the jet fuel is a weird substance.
Yeah.
It's like diesel almost. It's not like gas. It'll stick to you, and it's thicker.
Yeah, so I don't know what kind of quantity I had on it, but it was taking my skin off. I know I had enough of that on there, and I'm sure it evaporated some, but yeah, so I have, and then I was probably mixed with the fire retardant and everything else that was in there, and it was crazy. But I firmly believe that little piece of serenity I had there was a taste of the afterlife. I'm convinced of it. I really am. I'm really convinced of it.
What other explanation is there? I mean, there was a reason all this happened, as horrific as it is. What was the injury status of everybody on that flight?
Oh, we had people were banged up really bad, and we had some people that had broken limbs and everything, and then I didn't get diagnosed later till but I got bone spurs up and down my spine and my neck and everything from that, And then, of course, the military denies it. Well, you didn't say anything when you were in the hospital. I was like, well, I was there and I got released, and it's like, that's what they did. They sent me home, and I lost everything in the crash. So I had people that went to the Goodwill. So, yeah, dressed me up like Forrest Gump and sent me on a plane home. And it was like, yeah, that was bad. But
so to this day, that's why I asked about the helicopters flying over, and it's an amazing thing what the mind does and how it can bring you back to something as if it were happened 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
And I want people to understand that, and some of you probably do. It takes that's why the 4th of July, and when we do music things for veterans for our nonprofit, there's never any strobe lights, there's no fireworks, because even if it's just one, we're not going to put them through that, because it can be, I hate using the word trigger, but that's what it is. It's a trigger, and it just, all of a sudden they're having the best time, and all of a sudden they're back to wherever their trauma occurred.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't, and like I said, I get up in that thing every day, and without, triggering, but it's just like I'll have a moment where it'll be 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 sometimes, I just sit there and I pause, and I just have the stare where I got nothing else on my mind but getting in that thing, and just right now I'm kind of in there now.
Well, to me, that's your brain still processing it. That's how this works, and I guess I'm not going to say it's a conscious choice on what you do with it, but you've definitely taken a different route of trying to help people from that. And whether that was the divine experience or the whole experience as a whole, I find through my experiences, it's one of the greatest things you can do is try and help people. And it gets misinterpreted, and people don't understand. It's like, well, you're always just doing this and that. And I was like, yeah, because that's honestly what makes me happy.
Yeah, I like that too, and be able to make a difference. It's a good thing, and and I've had a couple of close calls since that one. They gave me 24 hours to live in the Middle East. I had an infection in my neck and it was almost into my brainstem, and they induced me into a coma. And I was thinking, the only regret I had, I was going to die in a Muslim land, but I was happy though. I mean, I was ready to accept it and everything, but I didn't really want to rise and, have a bunch of jihadis around me in the spirit world, I mean, I
don't know if that's the way it works. But
I don't know how, I was like, that's what you think about, when you're by yourself. And I was starting to drift off, and I was like, I got a wife and kids, and I'm like, they're going to be taken care of, and, they're going to, and it was peaceful then. It wasn't this violent, but I was at peace with everything. It's weird, and because I knew I tried, and that was a strange thing when that happened. And it's
So through this profound experience, if you and I know you've come across them because I've known you for a while. You find somebody struggling with something that happened to them, whether it be on a deployment or in their personal life, what advice do you give them?
Man, I tell them, I said, find a tomorrow, find something to do tomorrow. And gotta look at the future, I mean, there's nothing in the past for you, I mean, there really isn't. And,
you got that right.
There is no yesterday anymore. It's just.
No, you start over.
Yep.
I mean, every day. Some days, and it can get exhausting, and sometimes people need a little boost and a little help to know how to get through that. And whether that's sitting with your homies, having a cup of coffee, or I don't want to say having a beer, but it's okay to have a beer. But if that's the problem, don't go have a beer. But sometimes that's what it takes. Camaraderie is still there.
And that's what I love about the CVMA. Everybody, I mean, I'm not the only person with stories. Everybody in that group has got a story, and that's what makes us unique. Everybody's been in a combat zone. Everybody's had a close call, and most of those guys don't drink even, and
right.
Some of them do. It's just, only a couple, but I mean, everybody's just kind of, chained their demons, and it's good to be part of that because everybody's kind of went through the same struggles.
I think it's important that what my wife always says, you got to find your people. And when you find your people, if it's the combat vets, but I have to say I was in a Kansas City, and I was at a gas station. I saw the patch, and so I went up to talk to the guy for a while. He's like, "Man, people sometimes are scared to come up and talk to us." I'm like, "Man, those are some of the nicest dudes that you'll ever come across."
Yep, they
are. My wife's not bashful. I'm not
I
bashful.
used to hang out at Rick's bar. Like those were all the the big burly biker dudes. But that was the bar that you felt safe leaving your purse at the table to go outside and have a cigarette.
If they saw somebody steal that thing, their arm's getting broken.
There was a younger guy that went in there one time and attempted to take a lady's purse, and let's just say it didn't end well for him.
No, that would be a bad place. They had the most amazing chili too.
Their food is still very good to this day.
Rick's Bar, we're looking for a sponsor.
Exactly.
Hey, Spike,
come on,
you're
Rick.
Gonna sponsor us now?
Yep. Did you know Raz that went in there? That big biker guy?
Oh, there was quite a few of them. My band used to play there a long time ago.
Because I had a shaved head, and I'd go in there, and then people are like, "He's a narc," and everything. And then Raz had to grab a couple of people and shake the fear of God.
Are you sure
and say,
Tom
he's
is
just out
not
here
a narc?
having a good time, just leave him the f alone. And so that was good. I had him covering.
I knew all the narcs. Tom was not a narc.
No, I was not. Right, I was not. Yep, I was not. So, but that's
You're
the military
in the
thing.
middle.
It was like, oh man, I'm not even in the middle. I was a guard guy that hung out. And how do you chase women? Back in the 80s, whenever there was hair bands and all this other stuff, and you got to shave your head. You're walking around looking like a dick with ears, and it's like, and everybody else is Kip Winger here, and you're like, it's like,
Winger,
hey, you want to go out with me? And it's like, hell no, and
No, Baldy, go away.
yeah, and it hasn't gotten any easier as I gotten older. It's still, that same thing. So
I tell you what, I was at the police department. You guys remember Lafine's at 7th Avenue and 25th, right? The old gas station. It got robbed one day, and it didn't really get robbed. But I was probably 2 years on, and I was literally 400 feet away from Lafine's. So it's like, Lafine's just got robbed. I came over there and I'm like, no, they didn't. I'm sitting right here. So, you got to treat it like a robbery. Here comes another squad car. They met them outside of Rick's. Rick's brought us all chili because it was cold out.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. So I'm sitting in my car eating chili, spilling all over this light blue uniform. It's like, this is the best chili I've ever had in my life. Come to find out, they didn't get robbed. They just took cash out of the till.
Oh, boo.
Man, yeah, I remember. I used to live on the ridge up there.
Did you? That was my old beat, man.
Yeah. Well, you can't be surprised. I lived in Meadow Park Trailer Court, so it's like, that was.
I was there a couple of times.
Yeah, it's
not to your house. But.
Well, you probably woke me up and everything because
probably
I passed out at the stop and go one time, and
that
I
was
had
probably me.
Yeah, that might have been you. And I had my hand in a bag of Doritos and a burrito with me, and cops were like, "Hey, get your ass up! You can make it." And where do you live? And I pointed, and they said, "You can make it home. We won't take you in." So they followed me, and I made it home, and to the thunderous laughter in the car behind me,
Oh, sure.
So, yeah, I don't blame them. So I was like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Damn it, I forgot my Mountain Dew over there."
Well, that's a short walk. I mean, that was a stop and go, right? I mean,
yeah, it was. But after 20-some tequila shots, it could have been a marathon for all that.
That's a lot of tequila. The last call I got up in the ridge was an animal welfare call because 2 bats had collided and one claw stuck in the other one. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do here.
2 bats, really?
Yeah, I
Save the bats. Come on, Dan.
I'm not touching the bat.
Okay. So it's like
it's a different world. It's a different world we live in now. This was a great time for me. It was a learning experience because you never knew what was going to happen anywhere in the city. But when you work your beat, you tend to start to know the people on your beat, and I think that was the whole philosophy. And we go to a lot of the same places over and over. I get about something I watch to it. That and the Sunmart at 724 North University Drive for a shoplifter.
Yep. Yeah, that was all my. I lived there for. I liked living on the ridge. I loved it.
So as you guys can hear, both of these wonderful men give back to the community. Some in interesting ways for parts of their life, and other ones for charity giving and nonprofit and all of these things. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about how you give back now?
Man, I gotta, Dan's outfit is amazing. That Operation Check 6, and you guys can belt it out. And I hope you're coming to the 9/11 stand down again. And
Absolutely. We love that.
yeah, because I was there and I don't know who was singing, if it was her or Jamie or whatever. But you got somebody that sounds just like Grace Slick. I was just like, because I was like,
good.
I had my back turned and I was like, I could feel the hair on my. I was like, oh my god! And
Yeah,
I had
a
to
little
turn around
white-
really slow, and I was like, is that Grace Slick? I was like, kind of expecting
When
to
she
see her.
does White Rabbit, everybody's like, we thought the radio was on. She's good. She's,
Yeah, I was
very
like,
good.
I was like, wow.
That's a shout out to you, Carolyn.
Yeah, because I'm a Starship fan, and everything. That's like,
Well, I'll put that on the set
So
list.
you guys can bang it out. So
We have a good time, and the veteran stand down event in downtown Fargo is awesome because you get to play at the Midcoast stage, and there's hundreds of people that show up for that, and then you get the crowd coming for lunch that's working downtown,
Yep.
and you get quite a crowd there, and it's fun to do, and there's people dancing, and when you can take something that used to be a piece of wood and throw some strings on it and watch people dance to it, it's a pretty awesome feeling.
yep. Yeah, that's you guys do an amazing. Yeah,
Thank
you
you for
guys
that.
are good. I mean, I'm very impressed. And
Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing, we're in the initial stages. This is partnering with another large nonprofit, and they own some ice castle fish houses, and we're going to drop them out at my little 40-acre compound, and we're going to have an overnight with about 4 vets. We're going to teach them how to play. We're going to do some songwriting, sit around a campfire and tell real stories and try
Very
to make
cool.
some songs out of it. And
Pretty cool.
hopefully it has an impact on them, and we can make them mentors at some time if they're willing, so they can help other people too. I call it a dandemic. I hope there's a dandemic when it comes to
yeah,
Me too.
I definitely like what you guys do. I mean, it's
Thanks, man.
It's an amazing, because we've been talking for years. I think I even got you the Legion one time, try to get some money out of them and whatnot. But
You know, the funny thing about our nonprofit, it doesn't cost a lot to run. We'll take your cash and we'll turn it and we'll give it right back to the vets. We'll get them instruments. We'll do them. We'll teach them how to play. We'll do whatever. But my biggest concern when we first started our nonprofit in 2019 was money and talent. And those are the two things I don't worry so much about. It's time. And that's with anybody, whether you're a parent, whether you're trying to help other people. Time is such a commodity. And when you have a 5-piece band like that, getting 5 people in the same place at the same time just to practice to get there, because you want to do it right, especially
Yep.
for the vets.
yeah, and you guys do recording too of veterans and
That's
everything
correct.
too. So I mean,
Yeah,
so you guys do a lot of good
We'll
stuff.
go into the veterans' homes and record some of our most experienced vets, like World War II vets. They're still out there.
Yep.
And some of the stories they have, they'll humble the hardest of person, and it's absolutely amazing. And these are local people. That the one individual was 102 years old, and he was talking, and he came in at the end of World War II, and he was talking about flying his airplane, watching the ships come back from Japan. Now imagine that.
Right.
The other one climbed down the ropes on D-Day, and he was so worried about, he had come to the realization he was going to be shot. And he, kind of like you were describing, was at peace with that. He didn't want to slip in the water and drown.
Yep, and the leadership it takes to do that kind of stuff is to lead people into an environment that just sucks like that. It's like, boy, because it's tough to get troops to clean bathrooms, and I can't even, I can't even imagine what it's like to try to get them to, go into a shooting match like that, and especially one that's that nasty, and everything. But
Well, Tom, the way we usually end things is we put you on the spot, and it's not in a bad way. And I think it's one of the most important things we do. We ask the people that have experienced this and survived through it and continue to survive, not only survive, but thrive through it by telling their story and sharing it with other people. Let them know that, hey, you know what, there's other people out there and they're not too far away. They could be your neighbor. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you could give, especially for a younger generation, one piece of advice, what would that be?
man, don't give up on yourself, because it's so hard to dog yourself when you're younger because you just don't see the big picture, and it was, I didn't enjoy my youth at all. And it was like, it just felt like doomsday every day I was alive, in high school and, a couple years after that. But, don't give up on yourself and, keep walking towards your goal. It's like, do what you want to do and take control of your life and do it, and I do things now I just can't even, I can't even imagine. I met presidents and kings, and it's like I'm just, and I'm still just doing crazy things. I'm like, I just can't believe it. So it's just very cool. And just believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself no matter what anybody says. Do your
Absolutely.
thing. Do your thing.
Just, be faithful to yourself and be true to yourself and just keep driving. It's like, none of us thought we'd be here at this juncture, and it's just it's a good place.
Well, this is all Abby's idea, so.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like,
Well,
yeah.
No, I love that you say that. Just appreciating being alive. You know, I think when we're younger, we're just stuck in the thick of it, like you said, and you just don't think about the big picture. And looking back on that now, even myself, I start thinking, wow, I'm so self-loathing. And ugh.
It's a slippery slope. It's easy to do.
It is.
It is,
And
yeah.
now I'm like, oh, you know, like just want to live and thrive and, you know, try to see the other side.
Yeah, no, definitely, and you give back, and I know your the story with and you're doing the marathoning and all that stuff, and it just and then that charity thing you did not too long ago. So you're living it, you know. I mean, and you're living it too, Dan. You know, and it's like it's good to see that, and it's good to be with other people that have that mentality. It really is.
Hey, man, it's all a chain, and without it, everybody's got their link, and without that link, you don't have a chain, right?
Yep.
And Abby, yeah, you do a lot. you do a ton.
Yeah, you do.
You
Yep.
do a ton.
I'm never home.
She's home right now.
Right.
We got
true.
her at home. Hey,
I know,
ladies,
it's a little scary here, and I'll have to give you that and
you
everything.
know, I
So,
love
yeah,
it. I love it. I love the decor.
Kind of messy right now, but yeah, it's my little gothic home.
You know what? This is Abby projecting.
This is my trauma that you get
Yeah.
to sit in right now.
Yeah, we're right in the
Yeah,
middle.
no, I love it though. It's like, yep. I'm like, yeah. It's like, yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Tom Krabbenhoft, and I will tell you, man, thank you for your service to this beautiful, great country that I love so much, our flag. Thank you for being an inspiration to not only children and anybody listening, but to others to set your goals. And you know what? Don't worry about what other people say. Just go for it.
Yep. Live your life, man. Believe in yourself.
Live your life. Abby?
Yes, live your life.
All right.
I have no words of
So
wisdom. I
inspiring.
guess.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
You got the tea though. That was,
Yeah. We're gonna have some more good stuff coming up. We had our little break, and we're done taking breaks now, aren't we?
I think so. I think
so.
we've got some more in us.
I do too. So thanks, everybody. We're gonna catch you on the next one, and I'm out.
Bye.
thing.
You've been listening to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we speak with some of the most intriguing people about their journey from trauma to triumph. If you find yourself in mental crisis, please seek professional medical help immediately.